Hello everyone, my name is Hayomide Emmanuel Agbola. Welcome to my SQL learning documentary. Today we are moving to joins. Join is one of the topic under SQL that is very important. And I simply explain join to be something that connects two sets of information that belong together. When two things are common, is easily joined together. So that's how join is in SQL. When two tables have something in common, there must be something that is common in between two tables before you can join them. And we have different types of join. Inner join, we have right join, we have left join, full outer join, cross join, self join, union, and union all. Those are the types of joins that we have. In this video, like I said, we were talking about inner join. An inner join shows rows where there is a match in both tables. When there are matches in two tables, we use inner join. They join them together. You want to see the matches in two tables. Everything must be the same both in the left and in the right. That's when you're going to use inner join. And the question we'll be looking at in this video with join is to write a query that returns the cabinet name and the primary row required to open it. We are not using the BOS table again because we don't just have only single table in that database. And in joins, we will need more than one table to do joins because we'll be joining 2, 3, and more tables together based on their common columns. And when you are joining table in SQL, the only thing you can use to join table is the ID. You can't use name. You can't use any other column except the ID. A primary key of a table will become the foreign key of the other table that you'll be joining together. I explained foreign key and primary key in the first video I made when I started this documentary. So we're going into the query now to see how can joins together. And whenever I'm doing my own joins, the first thing I do is to make sure I understand my question. I analyze the question to know the tables I will need for my join query. Write a query that returns the cabinet name and the primary row required to open it. The primary row required to open it. So those are the two things you want to know that are very important. The cabinet name and the row that open those cabinets. So I will go to my schema to look at where we have these things I want to return. Cabinet name, I found it under the cabinet in my schema. We have it as cabinet name under the cabinet table. So the tables I will be using is first is cabinet. And the other one that we'll be using when we said we are going to return primary row too. Okay, where we have row name, ID, row name. To be using row also because we have row name, because the question says we are to return the cabinet name and the table and the primary row. So those are the two tables we will be using for this query. These are the two tables I will use for this query. And we dive into the query. Whenever you are joining two tables, like I said, there is something in common in those two tables that you are joining that you have found out yourself before you go ahead to join them. And you join based on ID. The ID in the table 1 must also reflect in table 2. That is when you can join. And like I said, when you are using inner join, it joins together the things we have in the two tables that are the same. For instance, in table 1, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. In table 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you are using inner join to join them, you will only return 1, 2, 3, 4 for the two tables. You will not say 5 there. That is what inner join means. Now, to go into our query, we have select cabinet cabinet name. These are the columns we are going to be returning, and the row name. The row name under rows table. And when you are talking about inner join, you can use any of the two tables in your from. It is only when you are doing the right join or the left join you have to be very careful of the one you use in your from statement. Now we are going to be using any of the table. I'm using cabinet as my table in from. Okay. And before this video, we talked about alias. This is where I told you that it is helping us to write a clean query that it will not be too long. I want to alias from cabinet to be C. I want it to be C, and I'm now joining this cabinet with another table, which is the rows. I will now say inner join rows as R. I've renamed cabinet to be C and rows to be R. Inner join rows as R. Based on what? What are the things that is common between the two of them? Under the cabinet, we have row ID under the rows, and under the cabinet, we also have row ID there, which is the primary row. On you are joining them on from cabinet as C, inner join rows as R on C, which is cabinet. At the cabinet table, we have primary row ID equals to R dot row ID under the rows table. Row ID under the rows table, and we are going to run. If you get this last statement, last line of the query, C dot primary row ID equal to R dot row ID. These are the things it returns. Primary row ID is found in cabinets. That's why we have C before it. And row ID is found in rows. That's why we have R before it. That's what that last statement means. If I want to remove these aliases now, and just let me put the name of the table before them. Cabinet dot row ID dot primary row ID equals to rows dot row ID. Okay? Can we see that it returns still the same thing? Now, can you see that this last statement is too long and it's not making our query to look neat? And you can also put your cabinet in your select statements, like I said. You can put row also before row name. It is pointing out that these are from this particular table. In case you have row name in the same table under the same database. Now, we have it also returning the same thing we have returned earlier. Now let's put back our aliases as R and as C and eliminate this back to C and this back to R and other ones in the select statement too, and we rerun it to C, that we are still going to get the same result. The only thing is that it's now neat and it's also easy to read. Now we have our return to be the same thing as what we have returned earlier. I hope all this is clear and we can all use them in our daily SQL training and on the job. Thank you. I will see you all in my next video.